California. It's time for the leather to fly. This is the main event. Introducing first, he fights out of the blue corner. He entered the ring wearing black with silver. He weighed in at 126.5 pounds. As a professional, he is undefeated with 25 victories, no losses, 16 wins by knockout, along with 1 no decision. He comes to us from Kansas City, Kansas. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the unbeaten Marcos Flaco Ramirez. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner. He's wearing the red, white, and blue trunks, and he weighed in at 126 pounds. He was a 2004 Olympic gold medalist, and now, as a professional, he too is undefeated. His record, 11 victories and no losses, with 9 big wins by knockout. From Miami, Florida, by way of Guantanamo, Cuba, here is the undefeated Yuriorkis El Ciclón de Guantanamo, Gamboa.
Chief second only. Chief second, fighter. Gentlemen, you've been given your instructions in the dressing room. I expect a good, clean, hard fight. Obey my commands at all times. Focus.
Yuriorkis Gamboa is correctly perceived by everyone in the boxing industry to be the most talented Cuban fighter to turn professional in recent years. But so far in his pro career, his amateur career was as good as it gets. So far in his pro career, he's been a little more Naseem Hamed than Roy Jones Jr.
Meaning?
The fundamental flaws in his amateur style, in spite of his athleticism, have exposed him to greater risk, a la Naseem Hamed, than Roy Jones ever was exposed to early in his pro career.
Which is why his original trainer was fired 2 fights ago after a sloppy performance against Darling Jimenez, fight in which he was knocked down, 2nd time in his career, and wound up taking a 10-round decision. And he came back and knocked out Al Seeger in 2.5 minutes in his next outing, which was his last appearance. And now this is the 2nd chance to see if he's learned some good new stuff from the new trainer, most specifically Lennox. Will he hold his hands higher in a more respectful defensive stance?
Well, he obviously was lacking something, and he felt he needed a new trainer. And right now, what I can see, the trainer is definitely helping. I was watching some pad work, and this trainer is very well schooled. And he's coming from, he's coming from Cuba, so he's had an extensive training career.
Marcos Ramirez has been off for 16 months dealing with his own personal difficulties in the wake of the death of an infant child due to sudden infant death syndrome and a divorce which followed that. How about coming back from 16 months of inactivity, fight a whirlwind like Gamboa, and Gamboa goes down for the 3rd time in his career.
And he wasn't down from a lack of balance. He was hurt. I believe it was a left hand, and then followed up with a combination, and he went down.
It was a strong counterpunch inside indeed by Marcos Ramirez. And the 16 months off were just what he needed. Ramirez thinks he has Gamboa going. He gets caught with a hard right hand of his own.
Now Ramirez, this is shocking so far, folks, because Ramirez, in spite of his undefeated record, is considered a typical Midwestern built-up club fighter who would be completely outclassed by the spectacular former gold medalist undefeated Gamboa. So for Gamboa to be knocked down cleanly this early in the fight is eye-opening.
Indeed, perhaps what's most amazing is that when they traded, Ramirez has matched Gamboa's hand speed. And that's what most people thought wasn't possible.
Gamboa is coming in, but his head is forward. So he's racing and his head is in front of his gloves, which is a mistake. And this is where you get your head straight up, and it's always easy to hit. So he needs to crouch a little bit and hide that chin.
That's what I meant by more Naseem Hamed than Roy Jones Jr. Jim.
Indeed, and the rest of the round becomes highly significant because the subject now becomes, is it a 10-8 round for Ramirez, or is it a 9-9 round because Gamboa wins the balance of the round after having been down? And there's a good left hook for Ramirez.
Jim. He must have heard you. Ramirez must have heard that.
That good left hook might be enough to ensure, as Max Kellerman points out, that it would be a 10-8 round for Ramirez. All right, Lennox, let's take a look at a replay of the knockdown, and you're going to see something the layman doesn't often see.
Right, and when he's coming across, when Ramirez is coming across to the right hand, the elbow kind of slips out there, and it wasn't purposely. He was really trying to throw a right hook, but Gamboa definitely got caught with that on the chin.
Looked like Max Baer in the 20s and 30s. Fighters used to train that way. You follow the punch with the elbow.
Fighters used to accuse Mike Tyson early in his career of throwing purposeful elbows like that. In Tyson's case, I think it was just that his hand speed was so great that opponents couldn't see what was coming.
Max Baer, the former heavyweight champ from Cinderella Man. He's the guy that Russell Crowe beat, for those of you out there who aren't familiar with Jim Braddock.
He was a better guy than the character who was portrayed in the film. Did you ever get hit with an elbow, Lennox?
Yes, I did, and I actually gave a couple elbows because my trainer said, well, if you get away with it, at least you get away with it. But if you get caught with it, then the referee warns you, and at least you got away with it.
Does it hurt a lot worse than getting hit with the glove?
Well, you usually don't feel it because, you know,
you're fighting.
Yeah, and it's high intensity, so, but later on, you probably look at it on tape and say, oh, man, that guy hit me with an elbow.
Well, the arrogance of Gamboa is still visible, despite having been bested in the first round.
Oh.
And now he knocks Guerrero down with a right hand.
And that was a great shot.
Ramirez
did not even see it, and he was hurt. He's taking the full count. That means he really got affected by that punch.
And Marcus Ramirez told us yesterday that he's never been knocked down. Never in a pro fight, never in an amateur fight.
Oh, there's some terrible shots in this fight. When I mean terrible, hard, stinging, powerful shots.
Yeah, I think Gamboa got his pride wounded. And they are trading big time.
Oh! Gamboa really took off with his throwing his punches. He was really determined to hurt Ramirez, and he did twice. I don't know if Ramirez can get up and recover from this, and he can't.
That was Jerry Cantu stops the fight.
That was a quick count at the end, Jim. He said 9-10. And Ramirez was trying to beat it.
Yeah, Ramirez was planning to go forward in the fight. He was not planning to check out at that point. He thought he was fine. He thought he was up at 9. Cantu stopped the fight immediately.
Well, that's the problem. When you're sitting on the ground waiting for them to count all the way to 10, you're taking a chance because the referee can make that last few seconds count really fast, and you can lose.
That was a bad example of it, though. Generally, you're right, though. You should get up at 8, not 9. Still, the ref did not give him a 10 count.
Yeah. Still early in the fight, the ref should have given him a little bit more of a chance.
Lennox, let's take a look at both knockdowns in replay, all right? We're going to get 2 looks at each of the 2 second-round knockdowns for Gamboa that give him the knockout victory.
Oh, good uppercut.
And a right hand that followed.
That array of punches was more speed and shocking that really surprised Ramirez.
Shocked by the uppercut and really cuffed behind the head more with the right hand.
Gamboa knows that if the going gets tough, he can turn it into a shootout, and given his superior hand speed and punching power, usually win. But he may be an example of a guy where all those amateur fights can work against him because those bad habits he's had through hundreds of amateur fights are not going to be corrected, you know, in 2 months with a new trainer.
I think your Prince Nassim Ahmed comparison is entirely appropriate based on what we saw tonight.
Much better amateur pedigree than Hamed. Maybe a better even physical specimen in terms of his gifts, but fundamentally flawed.
Technically better than Hamed, and you're right. Let's hope that his new trainer can really tell him that he needs to get back in the ring and practice, in the gym and practice a lot more things that he needs to work on before a fight.
Let's go to Jake Gutierrez for the particulars on this knockout.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Jerry Cantu reaches a count of 10 at 1 minute 41 seconds of the second round. The winner by knockout victory, he remains undefeated, Yuriorkis, El Ciclón de Guantánamo.